Welcome to the Flourish Focus series. I'm Tilman Ehrbeck, managing partner at Flourish Ventures. And I'm very excited to have Reuben Lai with me today. Reuben is the head of Grab Financial Group in Southeast Asia. And in that role, Reuben is at the forefront of one of the most exciting trends in fintech today, which is this idea of embedding financial services in non-traditional platforms that have relevance in people's daily life. Welcome, Reuben.
Thanks, Tilman. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Thanks for doing this. Much, much appreciated. Reuben, what we want to do today is, in the next 25 minutes or so, is sort of unpack this notion of embedded finance. And with your permission, why don't we start with you giving us an overview over the platform, the Grab platform, who's using it, how frequently, these type of things.
Sure, happy to do that. Look, Tilman, we're in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic, and it's really shown a huge spotlight on inequality, like the digital divide and income disparity. And for us on the Grab platform, which was founded by Anthony and Ling to really solve and drive economic empowerment for millions of people all across Southeast Asia. This season has been unique. It's been one that we've been able to step up and really use our technology to just help contribute and make lives a little easier for people in Southeast Asia. Now, how have we done so? In 2020, for example, close to 237,000 driver partners were pivoted. As transportation dried up with the lockdowns, we shifted them over to doing food and grocery delivery, which not only allowed them to secure their incomes, but they were also able to help other folks and providing them essential services. The same thing for our merchants. Tilman, close to 600,000 merchants were converted offline to online, as many of these merchants sprinted to provide their services online so that they could continue to thrive during the pandemic, and as well as be useful to society and provide essential services. On the pay front, we see the same thing as well for our users. As users started becoming conscious of hygiene and not wanting to use cash, many of them, millions of them, online for the first time, using cash transactions on the Grab platform in order to buy their daily groceries and essentials. Insurance, which was traditionally something that we had to sell to customers, they became very conscious of it. Without income, feeling vulnerable, many of them just really were focused on protecting themselves and their families. And we ended up selling close to 60 million insurance policies in 2020. And because people were very conscious of protecting themselves and their families. Actually, I'll correct myself, it's close to 65 million in microinsurance policies.
So say a bit more about that. So you have the users on the app, you have the drivers in the millions, the users in the 10 millions, the drivers in the millions, the merchants in the hundreds of thousands. What type of financial services, what type of insurance is that? You just gave that example. Say a little more about that.
Sure. So I'll give you an example. It's best illustrated. And since the topic is on embedded finance, I think there's a good illustration of what embedded finance is, because sometimes it can be quite an obscure term. So one of the products that we sold on our platform is this thing called critical illness. It allows our drivers to pay as low as 10 cents a trip, accumulating up to 200,000 of coverage. So every trip that they take, they're just squirreling away 10 cents, which is extremely affordable. And there was an example of a driver that did just that. Over 1,005 trips, he managed to accumulate the maximum coverage. The sad thing was that he was diagnosed with cancer. And he was the sole breadwinner in the family. But thankfully, he had this insurance, which allowed him to receive treatment and also allowed his family to survive during that time when he was not able to work. And it's stories like that that makes it so relevant of what we're doing to bring accessibility to the people in Southeast Asia and making financial services more available to them.
So there's obviously payments on the platform, and then there's credit, I presume, to the drivers. There's insurance.
Mm-hmm.
What allows you to provide these services better than the traditional standalone financial services provider?
Sure. Actually, we provide payments to the end users. We do lending with for both our merchants as well as our drivers. We also do micro insurance for both users and drivers currently. So what we try to do using our reach, using our data, using our everyday services is to embed all of these financial services in a way that is very seamless to our merchants, our drivers, and then our users.
So take the critical insurance, critical illness insurance that you mentioned earlier. What type of data do you collect that gives you an advantage? Data that, again, the traditional standalone insurance players would not have.
It all starts with the payments business. So our e-money product allows us to look at the transactions that's coming in and out. It could be a user, could be a merchant, could be a driver, doesn't matter. It's the same thesis. Using that knowledge, we're then able to understand, if I were to use lending as an example, their ability, what they consume, their ability to repay, their willingness to repay, and it also provides us the rails to do micro repayments, and as well as the ability to disperse money to them very quickly. So that for us is the foundation of our entire financial services business, having that payment rails that allows us to really understand our user behavior. We also augment that data with other alternative forms of data. For example, we understand users on the Grab platform, the rides that they take, premium, economy, how frequently they use it, where they go. For the merchants, we have a deep understanding of the delivery volumes. In fact, we have a forward-looking view of it. We know when a merchant is trending, whether users are viewing this store more and buying from it more, or even recommending to their friends. For insurance, being able to embed it into the everyday services such as rides, food delivery, parcel delivery, it allows us to understand that at that moment, a user wants to book a ride. We'll surface contextually the insurance offer so that the user would just click on it, and it's a very natural motion for them, and that results in significantly higher conversions. So for us, it's really about building around transparency, around affordability through micro repayments, fractional everything. And then the third is really context, just embedding into the everyday flow. We just want to remove friction from the purchase, from the way people manage their money, so that it's as easy as ordering Grab food.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So for the folks on the platform, you have the engagement, you have the distribution is built in, you have the payments built in by definition, and then you have this data advantage that allows to understand and design products, underwrite credit, underwrite insurance in very different ways. That's all on the platform. You also have aspirations to provide services off the platform. How would that work? How would those advantages extend into the off-platform world?
That's right. So for us, our mission is really to transform Southeast Asia to drive economic empowerment. But we know that in order to do so, we need to take our users off our platform into a bigger proportion of their day-to-day lives. Grab platform, as useful as it is, I often call it butler in my pocket, because I can have all the useful services I need within a single app. But we also know that this is this is a sub segment of an entire life cycle of a customer. So what we want to do is to embed more and more services, into their daily lives, and we're starting with online. And this is very relevant in this day and age where a lot of folks, Tilman, that the growth of e-commerce has really taken off, thanks to the pandemic, and there was just a way where users just need to find the ability to just purchase daily essentials or things that are important for them to thrive during this time. So our intention, what we've done is to just embed things like payments, things like pay later into as many online sites as possible. And to do that, what we've done is to partner folks like Stripe and Adyen. For all the merchants, we want to enable GrabPay and Pay Later.
Okay, so your off-platform strategy does start online because that's where consumer behavior converges. Is that how I should think about it?
Yes, and it's also relevant now. And I suppose with all the lockdowns that are happening, it's better to just focus our attention online, and that's where most of our users are spending a lot of their time on.
Yeah, no, totally understood. We all, for better or worse, we have to work and live and socialize, shop from home or some safe place.
That's why we're doing this over. We're doing this over Zoom instead of in person.
I know. We are getting hopefully quite good at it. Let's switch a bit gears to the geographic dimension. So Grab, the platform is active in 8 countries. Is that true for Grab Financial as well? Are you in all these markets, or have you started in a few? Where have you started?
We're focused on the top 6 for Grab Financial.
Top 6. Okay. What's similar across these markets? I mean, Singapore on one end of the spectrum versus some of the large emerging markets in the region, they're obviously quite different. Are there similarities in what works across markets, or do you have to tailor things very differently market by market?
I'm going to use my favorite analogy of Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia for me is very, very similar to this fruit called durian. It's a spiky green fruit.
Yeah.
It's popular all across Southeast Asia. Right? It's a hard to understand fruit because when you look at it, you're like, how can this be tasty? But once you go beyond that initial layer into the flesh, you get used to it, and it's brilliant. It's so tasty. It's complex. It's got richness of flavor. It's actually, and it has a lot of nutrients. In fact, and Southeast Asia is like that. It's a very complex region with many varieties of durians. But in order to appreciate Southeast Asia, you just got to go pierce through the surface, and then you can enjoy the amazing fleshy, tasty flesh that this fruit offers. And that's how we think about Southeast Asia. It's extremely fragmented.
Do give us an example, though. Give us an example of a consumer behavior insight, a driver behavior insight, a merchant behavior insight that actually translate. Can you bring this to life, this notion of the promised fruit?
I'll give the example of credit card penetration. In a market like Singapore, high credit card penetration, but in a market like even Malaysia, the credit card penetration drops dramatically, and most certainly in countries like Vietnam or Indonesia, where penetration could be 10 to 15%. And that is the environment that we live in. In a well-banked market, what are the gaps in the market that we can serve? And in markets where it's very nascent, how can we create products that are relevant to the customers? It's easy for them to understand. We have to basically shortcut the learning curve so that they can understand and consume these products quickly. The way that we've done so, for us, here's the magic sauce: is boots on ground. In every one of these countries, we've got local GMs, local teams working with the local government, hand in glove, to create products enabled by a common regional platform, but to create products that's specific for each one of these markets. And it's paid off. We've got payments licenses in the top 6 economies. We've got insurance licenses in all of them. We've got licenses in 5 of them. And acquiring each one of these licenses is just years of hard work, of working together with the government, showing them the products that are relevant to each one of these markets, and winning the hearts and minds of the users, because the governments just want to make sure that these products meets the needs of the users. And once they know that we're here to serve, and that's where they're willing to work with us and grant us these licenses. We've also been very blessed to be granted the digital bank license in Singapore, where we hope to build the next generation bank in order to meet the needs of Singaporeans.
Yeah, you anticipated a follow-up question that I did have around this notion of financial services are regulated for a good reason. And regulations are quite different across countries. So you have gone, your explicit strategy is to have a series of licensees as required in the various markets. Do you have partnerships for some of the capital intensive, balance sheet intensive businesses like lending, like insurance? Do you do this in partnership? And are these partnerships regional or local as well?
Yeah, in general, Grab is a partnerships-led business. We recognize that the problem we're trying to solve, in this case, financial services, is massive. So it's not one company cannot solve it all. We need to bring on board banks and FIs with us along this journey. What we see as our role is building the highway, a highway with good roads, so that all our partners can come on board in order to serve our customers better. And that's the way that we've done it with through partnerships with banks, for example. And to your question, do we do it with regional or local players? Both. And the principle that we go with is what is best for our customers. I'll give you an example. MUFG. So MUFG is an international bank, you may call it, and they have in many local banks inside. And through that partnership, we're linked up with the local subsidiaries or local banks, and we work with them to do things like co-lending, to do things like creating joint scorecards, so that we can lend to merchants and price it better in a more efficient way. We've also teamed up with players like UOB in Singapore, Maybank in Malaysia, and in K-Bank in Thailand, where we benefit from using their payment rails, benefit from having access to our customer base, and together we just provide more value to our users across Southeast Asia.
Okay, now that's super helpful. Reuben, it's probably a bit hard to look ahead given the pandemic outlook, which is playing out still very, very differently across markets. And obviously the situation in Indonesia, other places is tough right now. Despite that uncertainty, can you say a bit about what your priorities are for the next 12, 18 months or so?
I gave up looking ahead for during this time. I think in my last cycle, I probably did something like 4 versions of the next 12 months business plan. Every 6 months, things just look dramatically different. So, but at a high level, there are a few themes that we're working towards. The first, as we were discussing earlier, is really to get Grab financial products into the hands of many users as possible of the platform, to get them to primarily use it on e-commerce sites, where when when countries start opening up again, we would love to push P2M more, and just make it a habituation so that users get used to using our products of the Grab platform. The second one is really around operational excellence. So here is where I realize that at our scale, and in particular for financial services, what we want to be is the platform that provides the best customer service to our customers. And customer service starts not when things go wrong, but actually when they first come in contact with our products. So we want to automate as much as possible, from KYC, KYB, all the way to dispersals, to collections, and even conflict resolution. Enable our CE agents the ability to resolve conflicts as quickly as possible for all our customers, so that we can turn all of them into net promoters. And then the final thing that keeps me really busy is, of course, rolling out the digital bank, which we are hard at work. And we anticipate sometime next year where we would have a beta launch.
Okay. Second to last question, on a more personal note, what are you most excited about? What gets you up in the morning?
This is my fourth role at Grab, and honestly, hand on heart, I think it's the most exciting role. And I started 3 other businesses at Grab, and this is the fourth one. And the reason why I say that it's my most exciting is because I'm really driven by impact. Pre-pandemic, I would spend time in Nepal, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, working with a team of doctors distributing medicine. There was one story, that one incident that just stuck to my mind. We were treating a lady who was pregnant. She had a high fever, and we told her, "Ma'am, we can't treat you here. Please go to a nearby hospital." And so she went out, crestfallen. She sat outside, and we just went on with our work. 45 minutes later, we looked out and like, oh my goodness, the lady's still there. What's going on? So we go out, and with an interpreter, we found out that the reason why she didn't want to go to the hospital was because she didn't have any money. So we said, don't worry about it. We're going to take you there now. Just come. So we sprinted, drove her to a nearby hospital. Thank God that she received treatment. Her baby was fine. She was fine. But what broke our heart was that the cost of treatment for her was only $20, $20 US. She was literally making a life and death decision based on $20 US. For me, that incident stuck to my mind because I realized that, my goodness, if this lady had some form of insurance, it didn't even have to be much, she would have been okay. If this lady was able to even borrow money on the spot for $20 US, which she could have repaid quite easily, with a month's wage, she would have been okay. She didn't have to make such life and death decision. That is what drives me to come to work every single day. Because I know that we are building the next generation financial services that would empower, that would help lives all across Southeast Asia, that previously we were not able to do so because the technology didn't exist. But right now, with the Grab platform, we've got the reach, so the customer acquisition costs are lower. We've got tremendous amount of data so that we can create product and price it better. And then we've got the everyday services to just make it so seamless so that managing one's money is super easy. So there's just no more friction left in it. That is our end state that we hope to reach.
I did want to ask you the last question and it was an open-ended one, which is, should I have asked something that I didn't? But what you just told us is very, very compelling. So maybe we should end it here. But if there's anything else that I should have asked, your chance.
Well, I think that you probably would have wanted to ask me, what are we going to do with the digital bank in Singapore? And my answer to most folks is stay tuned. We're rolling out a bunch of really exciting products, and it's unusual because in Singapore, I think that most folks consider it a very well-banked market, which is really is true for the most part. But we also observe on our platform and through the voice of our customers sessions, which we do every single week, that there are huge pain points. One popular example would be access to merchant lending in a very seamless way, and the other is that we hear even for within our driver network. Actually, a lot of them are quite interested in investing and growing their money because they know that putting money in a bank and casa, inflation is just going to eat away their hard-earned money. So how do we create products that would enable these folks just level set access to products that you and I enjoy, but in a way that makes it very accessible to them. So those are the big problems that we're trying to tackle with the digital bank in Singapore. So stay tuned.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we have invested in challenger banks around the world. And if you are useful to people and you have the right features, you can take on the traditional banking system. So I'm excited about that prospect for Grab Financial. Listen, Reuben, this has been great. Thank you so very much for doing this. Goodbye to you for now. And thank you to the folks who have listened to this conversation. Thank you for your time. If you have questions, please follow up with events@flourishventures.com. And for now, this is goodbye from us.